Well, good morning. If anybody's out there, hope you guys all have a lovely day. Here it is, the sunny desert southwest, 80 degrees and climbing. Gonna be a hot one, gonna be a pretty one. If I can figure out how to do this is my first attempt at a live, so anybody out there suffering it through with me, appreciate you guys. Let's see, how do I turn my camera? Let me see. Hey, C4T, good morning. See if I can turn my camera around. Let me see. Nope, don't know how to do that. What do you got going this morning, bud? I don't think anybody wants to see my ugly face for 65 miles to my office, so. Guess I'll do this old-fashioned way. I'll turn my camera around, give you kind of an idea of my road. Heading out of Mountaineer, New Mexico, headed towards Willard, New Mexico. Whole lot of nothing out here. Ooh, you're cleaning. Do you do side jobs? I'll hire you, bud. Oh wait, here's the Mountaineer swimming pool. I don't know if you saw that. That's the sewer pond. I jokingly call that the Mountaineer swimming pool. What are you needing? Some rain, C4T? Ah, there we go. Now you can stop looking at my ugly old face. This is Highway US 60, and I'm heading, more or less I'm heading east towards the Texas border. Sorry, my window's just dirty as all get out. Yeah, we need some rain here too, C4T. It's starting to dry up, and Forest Service is up on top of the mountains poking around. They're fixing to light them up, so we'll have some fire and smoke coming out of the area probably real soon. That's my neighborhood. So back this direction is all the windmill projects. I don't know if you can see those. Probably not, because it's not a great camera. And then if you keep going out that way, Korai ruins are back that direction. And maybe I'll try to go back there when I can walk a little bit better. Those are a pretty neat set of ruins. And then back this direction is the ruins up there by oh shoot, I just saw Punta de Agua. Those are pretty neat. Those are pretty intact. The kids like to go play hide and seek in those. Oh, where are you hiking out west, C4T? nice. There's some pretty hiking here. I mean, once they get done burning the forest off on the mountain and it greens back up, that'll be real nice. But there's some real pretty canyon areas here. Motorcyclists will run down along the railroad lines that go through the cuts through the canyons. It's a real pretty country. Santa Fe's off that direction. Those mountains way out in the distance, if you can see it. Albuquerque is back that direction. Those are the Manzano Mountains. And I, for the life of me, can't remember the ones up by Santa Fe, but those are the ones over by Santa Fe. Yeah, between Mountain Air and Belen, there's a kind of a hill out there in the middle of nowhere. And what I've heard from a lot of the older folks here is that particular hill was like a last stand location. Some traveler or prospector or homesteader got into it with some of the local Indians, and they chased that guy up to that top of that hill, and he held him off for several days till he ran out of food, and they finally killed him. Here's one of our trains. BNSF runs through this area. And that mesa back over there, sorry, I'll see if I can get you a better shot of it. That's real pretty walking back that way. And there's a ridge of alabaster that runs along back there. Nice wide open country. Most if not all of this has been cattle country. They did some farming here in the 50s, and at one point this area was the pinto bean capital of the world, but the droughts came in and that kind of ended the dryland farming for the most part. Hey Claiborne, how are you? Good morning. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. So after I go over this next hill, we'll be heading down to kind of where the flats are. There's a couple of salt bed lakes the other side of the town of Willard, and those are pretty interesting. There's a lot of life on them salt beds, which is pretty surprising. But it gets more and more desolate going this direction until you start getting over into Texas. But yep, super dry, high desert area is what it is. And again, I apologize for my dirty windows. Lots of interesting Old West stories out here. My ex-husband's family, they came to this area. They were out of Texas, and they rode on a flat car, brought their Model T with them, a cow, husband and wife, and a new baby. And they rode in that Model T on that flat car from Texas up here to Mountain Air, unloaded that truck, and they sharecropped for a little bit till they got a stake, and then they got themselves a homestead. And that turned out to be a pretty nice set of properties. And they dryland farm for a while until the drought come, and then they did like most everybody else. After the drought came through, they ended up going dryland bean farm and that kind of stuff, and then they flipped all the way over to raising cattle. So during my 33 years of marriage, pretty much we did cattle. We had a cow-calf operation. So I don't know if you can see down that way, there's a dairy farm down there. See how it's nice and green down there? That's a lower spot. It's not really irrigated. And this is kind of what it looks like here most of the time. Just rolling and dry. Yeah, the brine flies that are on the salt lakes, they amaze me. There's a ton of life on those salt lakes. But all of this area's population dried up when they put the interstate in. Interstate did a lot of damage to this part of the world. You know, the old 66 route runs up around through Moriarty and Edgewood. I work up in Moriarty, and that's where I'm headed right now. But this road used to have quite a bit of traffic, and there was, you know, thriving communities. But putting in those interstates, boy, it sure did cut the legs right out from underneath the big bunch of people here in New Mexico. So this right here, they call it used to be called the Willard Y, and then some moron at the highway department decided to turn it into a T. So now it's the Willard T, and this road dead ends, and if you keep going east, you'll end up over in Texas eventually. If you keep going west on this road, you'll end up down at I-25. And this road will cut back over to Moriarty where you can catch I-40 again. So the Salt Lakes, when it's blowing, you can definitely see them. It's a big old white cloud, but they're out, kind of out this direction. But it's not windy today, so you won't really see them. But yeah, these are kind of typical places here. Usually when they're this close together, it's kind of a family that's divided itself up between the kids, and they all live together, almost compound style. When you go up into the Grant communities, there's a lot of properties are a third of an acre, and folks are all living on top of each other. So that's kind of condensed population out here in the rural areas. But for the most part, it's 160, 320, 640 acre parcels with a house on them somewhere. And then water, you can kind of tell your water depth if you look at the size of the windmills. If they're smaller mills, say they're 200-300 feet. If they're big, you know, look like turbines off of a plane that big, you know, they're probably 800 to 1,000 foot deep wells. But there's no river here, so everything here is well water, or it's catchment, water catchment. So are you guys bored to tears yet? I've lived in New Mexico since 1982. And sorry, I don't have a mount to put the phone on, so I'm a little shaky. I apologize. In the wintertime, this road, well, when it rains, it floods like crazy. And the snow blows so bad through here, you can't see a foot in front of your face. And it ices over pretty good too. It's just the way the wind comes off the mountain. So over here is the Manzano Mountains, if you can see those. And the Grant communities of Chiloli, Punta de Agua, Tajique, Torreon, they're all back up as mountains. So with New Mexico legalizing marijuana, the farms that were growing pumpkins and beans and wheat, some of them have already sold out. And so we got a lot of marijuana growers coming in. There's a newer operation along this highway, and you know, it's kind of scary to think about it because that's a lot of water, and you know, they act like it's not going to be a problem for the locals with wells, but I beg to differ. I know just general farming, one of our county commissioners bought property and got the neighbors to all agree to the sale and promised him he wouldn't pump any water to use that land, and the ink wasn't even dry on the paperwork, and he was pumping away and dried up all the neighbors' wells. And our lovely state engineer's office said, well, it's too bad, so sad. Commercial water rights are more important than an individual's. So if you ain't from New Mexico and you're planning on moving here, queue up on your water stuff because it's a big deal out here in the rural areas. That building over there is a bigger, newer place they put in. I'm not exactly sure what they do there. It's probably one of those grow facilities, though. I'll have to go down that road here in a little bit. That's New Mexico 542 is the highway. Hey Keto, how are you? Good morning. Thanks for suffering through with me, guys. I appreciate you. You can tell me how bad this sucks later. Haha. There's some cows. Oh yeah, goats are getting popular, which is kind of interesting. The county fair kids always did pretty good with their show goats, but I've been told there's a guy that'll bring a semi through here, and everybody knows when he's coming, and he'll run down the highway and he'll stop at individual places and he'll pay them a price for their goats, and then he hauls them down to the sale ring. And they go, usually most of them go over into Old Mexico because I guess those folks like to eat goat meat. So I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this right here is one of those newer marijuana facilities. I'm going to slow down. They put a sign up. I don't know if I can slow down enough to catch it or not. And they put a ton of these little buildings up. This used to be a place they grew pumpkins, and it used to be the pumpkin patch. The kids would come out here and, they take little wagons and they go pick their pumpkins, and, it was a big family deal. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing now. North American Agricultural Development Company. I'll have to look that up. Oh, thanks, C4T. I appreciate you. That windmill there, if you can see it, that's probably a 200-foot well, would be my guess. 200 to 300 feet. Yeah, and I joke around and say if you can see the power poles leaning, they lean based on the direction of the wind. Not necessarily. They come off the truck kind of bent, and then they'll do what they can to try to straighten them up after they hang the wire. But man, that's a lot of weight on those poles. The power company ought to consider doing some work and replacing those bad boys. Oh, I think my nephew, the firefighter, is behind me. He's going to give me a rip to the static being on my cell phone if he passes me. So down this direction, they kind of used to do quite a bit of farming. I mean, there's still some people that have opened fields back up and started some new fields. We're getting real close to being into the town of Estancia, Estancia. Estancia, New Mexico is the county seat for Torrance County. And Torrance County right now is notoriety goes back to the District 7 court system kind of being a turd. Hey, let's go. Good morning. Thanks, I appreciate that. You guys are troopers suffering through with me. Oh my gosh, this has got to be absolutely horrible. Yeah, I believe that is my nephew behind me. He's going to give me a hard time. That's the new house of one of our newest police officers out here. He just got married and just got through academy, and he's a new officer up here in Estancia. He was in Freeman's video where the Estancia police showed up at District 7 court to try to get Susan to get them to evict James Freeman from her office, and they kind of didn't decide to do that. So hopefully he's learning how to be a decent officer. So we're fixing to come into Estancia. Oh, sorry, my arm's getting tired. This place here, they decided to do goats, and then they did cows, and then it dried up. But they had a nice corral system in there, and they were able to process quite a few animals through there. And this place here on this curve, they opened that up to alfalfa, I believe, right here, and they started pumping the heck out of the water, but they didn't. I don't think they're much farmer. I don't think they're good farmers, because when they first tilled that soil, all the topsoil blew off. They didn't do it at the right time, and they didn't keep tilling it, to keep the moisture level up. So I don't think that poor guy gets very many crops. But man alive, it was like a big old dust bowl through here for the first couple of years he messed around with trying to grow stuff. There's another corral setup that they were using to haul animals out with. And there's pivot there, and tower in the background's for cell phone. Estancia, also, I don't believe the tree's still alive, but I think if I remember the local history correctly, Estancia's got the last place they had a hanging in New Mexico. Well, or for sure at least in Torrance County, although at this point I think those big old cottonwood trees ought to be put back to use. There's some of these stinking politicians that, maybe need to swing just a little. Hey, Manuel, good morning. So this is the lovely town of Estancia, New Mexico. USDA building. Metal yard. Those guys are pretty decent mechanics. Got some interesting folks here. Parts store. Used to be a restaurant. I think they do art in there now. Hardware store. There's our gas company for people that got natural gas. I can't say it, apothecary. That's a church now. Bar's closed, but that's a barber shop with the flag on it. There's a pot selling place. Ice cream place. Empty building. Some kind of construction company. Check your gas prices out. $3.79 a gallon here. What do you guys play? This is the front porch. That gal, when she's open, she makes pretty decent food. It's kind of like, the stuff you get at a county fair. Not too shabby. Laundromat. In the wintertime, these trees will get iced up, and you kind of dodge limbs. The limbs break off and start crashing into the road as you're coming through. So you got to be pretty nimble when there's heavy snow on those things. It's like typical small towns. There's a Family Dollar here and a Dollar General. If you notice, communities that have those stores in them pretty much are dying communities. I mean, and no grocery store in Estancia anymore. Prisons down this road. County building is right up here on the left. County sheriff is in there. Emergency services are in there. Behind that's the medical clinic. And then probably about another 15 miles up the road, our illustrious David Frazie's house, his little compound. That's an interesting guy. Though one of my friends out here bought an old PT boat, and he moved it, but you used to see it from the highway. That was a big old conversation piece. I would have loved to have had that. Oh, there's one of the wasteful solar projects out here. Can't even get started on green energy. What a sham I believe that is. But anyway, you guys, I got to drop off. My arm's tired, and you're probably tired of me, so wish you all a great day, and stay cool if you're in the Southwest. It's going to be 100 plus out here today. Appreciate you guys. Love y'all. Have a super day, man. Bye.